Hey there, super smiles and great greetings here in the infinitely new year, and goodest of yet mornings. I wish I could tell you how good it is to wake up after a long night of dreams and to see the dawning at 5:30 in the morning or so and know that you have a great message. It's an amazing feeling, and then to continue to wake up the day with those dreams and those messages. So that's why I'm doing a video, because I feel like the grace is transmuted. So I wish, that you could fully understand too, how funny it is. Yesterday I did a video like this about the blessing of how good it is to go out and get a paper when so much is going on in the world. And today I have a paper already to read from you from. So kind of in ritual with the ceremony, I'll go out and I'll get the precious paper that is oh so true and so familiar and so, you know, sacred in its complexity and sensitive out there in its vulnerability, that if I don't get it, somebody will. So, anyway, great greetings and super smiles here in the infinitely new year and goodest of yet mornings. So, basically, the message is that your intelligence is all that's necessary for the task at hand. To breathe, to born bound, to wonder, that God gives us the ability to choose, and to choose correctly, and completingly, and essentially in that ability to choose and choose correctly, I like to wrap it up with the succinctness of Voodoo believes in you do. So, to breathe, to born bound, and the best of dreams, leaving us in wonder, and instigating and inspiring us, and really motivating us, and not to be a product, but to be the present wonder, to be freed into a capacity in which we are capacitating for others' art, to be freed into a capacity which we are creating art. So God gives us that. That Voodoo believes in us, that we're on a sort of grid of activity and action. So the dreams that I awoke from and to see the beautiful morning sort of led me to conclude this, that all around is more important than the church, because I had had a series of revelations where I inherited a church, and then a tribesman with me sort of suggested that all around is more important than the church, that he had archery, and he had minerals, and he had gold mines, and I think it was a mastery of water, and perhaps electricity, if I'm going on and on now. And honestly, in the culmination of the dream, I was so enthused by his suggestion that all around is more important than the church, that I saw a treasure. I saw a jellyfish, and I didn't realize the matrix of the dream was changing. And from the church that I inherited, I sort of went to the jellyfish, and as the matrix changed, I was being inundated with this sort of jelly, and I fell through the jelly with a child, and I was waiting there in the dream. I was racing through solutions, like, oh, of course they'll drop a line, this is their mastery of water, they'll pull me out of this jelly that I couldn't swim in, and I had a child with me, so it was a little bit racking. But Voodoo believes in you do. God gives us all the ability to choose and choose correctly, completingly, and that basic message all around is more important than the church, even though what I'm saying largely is that the church is greatly, appreciated. So I woke up from that dream hungry, and I started eating and eating and eating. And sometimes when you're very enthused, I'm sure you found that you might drop something that you're eating, and that's one of the main points, that's how God feels about us when maybe we aren't walking the right path, is that God was planning on eating us. It's sort of this idea that I've had for a while that just like we become what we eat, what we're eaten by becomes us. And so that's how, this sort of empowered humility of unified oneness comes across, is that God feels about us just like a chip or a blueberry that had fallen out of grasp, and, it was sort of thought like, oh, I was going to be eating that, but as soon as it falls out of your reach, it's sort of pulled into this dimension where it's not immediately as digestible as the rest of the food in your hand. So there's this sort of foodie destiny of, the real breadth and width and depth of the idea, as I sort of walk past the newspaper here and just delve into this paper, is the foodie destiny of, you know, God is like this astronaut trapped away from all of his people, but he sort of creates this vessel in each of us. It's more than a mirror. He sort of has an ability to grow love in all of us and to grow emulations of what he knows or could know from his other godly-like people. And so through us, he is comforted in his solace, and also comforting and brought and bringing joy. So in the sheer monstrosity required for God, of God, for all of us to exist, is so sheer that I believe it must culminate in something called, or bundled in, his beings, polarized like all things into heavenly masculine and divine feminine, and infinitely polarized in, all 8 directions of Buddhism and the 2 directions of, altitude, up and down, and latitude and longitude sort of appeal when you're going into that depth of this wonderful, global greenhouse that I'm sort of describing, that we're all sort of like food. And I think that God is like me, and that there's sort of a ravenous appetite to become, greater and greater and greater, to only be eating the best of things. And that if you're like a thorn bush, then God so much doesn't really want to eat you. God has the ability to eat you and to grow you and to mold you into something different. But truly, it's more so that we have the blessings to do that to each other, is the unified oneness, the empowered humility, is the less trying, the more minute, the more finite, the more minuscule, task at hand, the more relieved God will be in the sheer monstrosity of all that he has to do in all of his beings. If we can take care of it ourselves, if we can aspire to be in harmony and union with the same Creator's creativity of creation, In another video I say that there's a great tribe that lived on a beautiful, beautiful land, and they came to find that they were lords of the land. And that's really what I'm saying, that we're lords of ourselves and lord of each other, and that we're really God-given in all of our beings to breathe, to born bound into a state of wonder, that we're always given all the intelligences that are necessary for the task at hand, and to also give back, that we're God-given the ability to choose, and to choose correctly, completeingly, and really that all around is just as important, if not more important, than any church of authority that takes authority away from you, instead of saying that authority is all around us, and authority is love, and authority is the great mercy that we have in all of our capacities, to understand that we're all at the mercy of each other's love. So I'm going to pick up the newspaper here now at a nice 10 minutes into this. And I wish you all great, groovy, gregarious days. And thank you so much for tuning in to this sheer monstrosity. I guess I'd just like to end with a nice poem. As I was sort of writing with my pen, here on the top of the page, there's 2 circles that remind me of infinity, and I drew them at 2 different times, one for one inkling of the pen and another for another inkling of the pen, and they're next to some lyrics that I wrote totally independently, yet somehow inseparably, as they seem incredibly concurrent and totally together with all of this that I'm reading to you from my paper here now. So happy breakthroughs with me, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm coming into you, and you're coming into me. I'm the slow angel, babe, and my touch is gray ace. I'm coming into you, and you're coming into me. I'm the slow angel, babe, and my touch is gray ace. And it kind of reminds me of giant springy tiger nymph and light dragon tongue, of all the wonderful iterations of words and chemistries and architectures that can be made from our wonderful language. But that's going to be it for me for right now. So toodaloo, and I love you all very much, but certainly only as much as I have love for myself. So let's hope that we're all making each other and the world, the land, and the food around us into capacitizing things that allow us to continuously be more and more digestible to not only each other, but also these higher iterations of complexity and novelty that are simultaneously existing, and the simulations that we all emulate each other into. So yeah, thank you very much, and happy Sunday here in the infinitely new year. 1248 on the track, and toodaloo for now.